So anyway, let's turn now to Steve Sherrill, who's back from his holiday vacation to say, what do you want to talk about? So Steve, what do you want to talk about?
I want to talk about a trip I took to a local hobby shop. Probably the best hobby shop in the East Coast for sure. I went up there with a friend, and I walked around and I looked at all the different scales he had there. And I was hit all of a sudden with the prices. And I was kind of taken aback at how much I could not afford. Now, I'm a long time in the hobby, over 70 years. And all of a sudden, I couldn't afford what was at the hobby shop. And I was troubled as to how new people can afford to get into the hobby. And I've often wondered what other people think about this and how they budget their funds to buy new engines, new track, whatever they want to do in the modeling. And so I would kind of like to have a discussion of this because it kind of really shocked me. And I'm not a poor person. I have adequate funds. But it was just, I looked at how a person with a young family affords $300 or $400 for an engine, and track, of course, is about $7 or $8 a foot if you measure it out, and just how they do it. I mean, you can scratch build, but even the supplies to scratch build will cost you something. And I got home and I really got to thinking about this. That is what I would like to discuss tonight, and I'd like to get other people's feedback on this, what they think. I mean, I go to train shows, and I see people carrying a lot of bags out and buying a lot of stuff, expensive stuff, and I'm just wondering, what are their budgets, and how do they do it? I mean, a hobby really is supposed to be something that you do with your extra money to enjoy, the fruits of your labor. So that's what I'd like to open up for discussion tonight. So if anybody has any input about any thoughts on this, I would certainly appreciate it, because I am really kind of confused as to how the hobby is going to survive with the prices that are being charged. And I, like I say, I'm just very confused at this. So does anybody have any input on that?
Steve, this is Bob. That's one of the very reasons why I find, and I don't mind spending my money on 3D printing stuff, because I've seen the same thing you have, that the prices are just very, very high, and that if you want to have things in volume, and I'm going to go back to the issue with the small figures, is that to populate a layout with a number of figures gets very, very expensive. And I would rather put my money into something that I can use to make those figures as compared to going out and buying them. And that's across the board with a lot of things. There are certain things that I have to buy. For instance, I have to buy wheels, I have to buy couplers. But other than that, I would rather take the time, and that's the big trade-off, I think, is time versus money. That's the big trade-off.
Well, now, when I go to a train show, I'm able to negotiate prices with even the dealers there sometimes. But the average person who's reselling stuff, and I can get some really good buys. And so, unfortunately, that's how we get the demise of our hobby shops is, we're trying to get things actually as economically as we possibly can. I mean, gone are the times when you could allot $75 a month or $100 a month when you want to buy a switch or or something like that. It's just impossible. I don't know how people do it. And if you're into larger scales, like O scale, there are no cheap items. There is nothing cheap. And with everything else going up nowadays, it's really difficult, I think, to have the hobby going at the speed that you want it to go. So that's why it becomes a lifetime hobby, I guess.
Well, we've had a couple of hobby shops. Matter of fact, I think almost all the hobby shops here in Maryland are gone. Klein's, I just understand, just closed up their shop. We had a local hobby shop called the Moose Caboose, and Glenn went under because of the internet. People would come in and say, "Hey, I can get it cheaper on the internet." You can only do that so many times before you've lost all your customers. So the hobby shops that still exist, they can charge whatever they want because there's no competition anymore.
Yes.
And I can't fault somebody from being in business and trying to make a profit. I mean, that's why they're there. But you're right; it's very, very expensive.
And even you figure an O scale is twice as big as an HO, but the prices were almost the same. The HO locomotives were the same as the O scale locomotives, and when you get down to N scale, they're the same as the O scale prices. As we've gone into more and more electronics, we have added that price into the cost of the product we're trying to get. And so the prices just zoom up.
Yeah.
Look, cars are like unbelievably priced now. I mean, if you want to get a nice HO car, you're talking $50, $75 for a car. So, it's very troubling for someone who can remember back when, things were much cheaper. And so it's just very, very troubling to me.
I'm going to play the antagonist here. I just went on eBay. There's 22,824 HO locomotives for sale on eBay. Some as low as $28, $29. So, I mean, there are, you don't have to spend $200-$300 for a DC, digital command control locomotive from, one of the top manufacturers right now. There are alternatives. And as you grow into the hobby, you can buy one of these, crazy locomotives, but there's still opportunities on the used market. There's literally hundreds of locomotives here under $50. Yes. Hundreds, so
you're absolutely correct, Tom. But what happens is the person will buy that cheap locomotive and then they'll put DCC and sound in it, and right away they put another couple $100 in it.
I'm telling you, you can there's always a way. If I do DC, there's 2,467 HO locomotives DC fitted, and pre-owned $149. I mean, it's not cheap, but $105, $65, $39, it's $50. There's a way. You don't have to be an ex-CEO to. It's always been considered the king's hobby, but there's a way to get in on an entry level if you want to.
Yeah, a lot of people don't deal with YouTube though. They
eBay.
Like to see the product.
eBay. Yeah. But I think the people that are just starting the hobby are the younger people, and they certainly know how to manage through. But there's literally hundreds and hundreds of locomotives here that are below $100.
Well, guys, it seems to me that this is an easy thing for us to deal with. It's called mentoring. We know where we can get something for a reasonable price that's a startup, and we can help the modeler. The modeler guide him as to where to look for that car for $10 or that locomotive for $55. We can mentor these people and help them get started. The problem is there's nowhere for these people to go to get that knowledge, and we're not offering the knowledge voluntarily.
Well, I know
Steve, there's also, I think what you're also observing is that inflation has had a root and cause for some of the expense that we're facing. You and I and many of us sitting here, we can remember buying a loaf of bread for 30 cents or 40 cents at the grocery store. Now you go in and you find that a loaf of bread is $1 or better. So first of all, you have to admit that the cost of things have gone up over the course of time. And so even today, someone who has $1 million really doesn't have a lot of money. But when we were kids, $1 million, boy, you had it made for the rest of your life. So one of the things we're dealing with here is just the cost of everything in our world today. And secondly, you have to take a different mindset. A locomotive for $200 today really that's not an expensive thing. It is to us because we have a mindset that goes back further where a locomotive might be $30. And so things are a lot different today. So people have to earn more money in a sense. They have to have better jobs in order to be able to buy the equipment they need. I just can't afford any kind of a laser printer or even a DNC machine. That's just way out of my range. So I'm trying to do my modeling with the least expensive items like paper and cardboard.
Yep.
And of course, I do spend a little. Usually it's on wood or plastic to be able to create things from scratch because I really can't afford the expensive laser cut kits. But even then, I can save a couple of pennies here, a couple of dollars there, and eventually be able to buy a laser kit. But we're facing basically a cost of living that has grown over a number of years. People today, they know they have to make a certain amount of money to be able to afford the kinds of things they want to get. So they have the jobs that enable them to do that. You and I look back and we say, well, it's really out of my price range. And we just live with that difference of a mindset. But today things are more expensive than they used to be.
Yes, well, of course, I agree with that. But what I think is when these people see these fantastic layouts that are being built by great modelers, and we have many on this site right here, they want to immediately go to that level. You know, they want to go to the DCC battery controlled and all that other kind of thing, JMRIs and all that, you know, the computer operated huge layouts, because that's what they're exposed to. You don't see many people who say, gee, I'm going to make a 4x6 layout, which is what we all started out with, 4x6, 4x8 probably. And we had a circular track, and that lasted us for a long time. Now they're automatically designing something for the third bedroom. You know, when I talk with people about battery, I try to talk them down to having small layouts, and with the advantage, because I have a big layout, and I tell you, it's more than I can handle. And you know, if I don't get 2 or 3 people here to run it, you know, it's just way too big for me. And I just think that there are times when we overemphasize the Mercedes part of the hobby. Rather, again, the Chevrolet would get us there, but somebody wants the Mercedes all the time. And the manufacturers are coming out every single day with new products. Every single day, and I don't blame them. I just think that there's got to be some way that we can, and it's very confusing because I don't want to tell anybody, hey, don't have an 80 car train with, you know, stacks and that kind of thing, because that's what they want. But somewhere down the line, it's going to catch up with them, you know, and so.
Steve, Steve, something you might not be aware of, and that is in Canada here, we're paying 45% to 50% more than what you guys are. So to me, when you quote a locomotive being $200, hey, that's cheap. You know, that's a good deal for you guys. Far
Just-
better than we can get it because we got the what do you call it, the money exchange, and we have taxes that I don't think you have quite so much of. Anyway, so it works like 45 to 50% more expensive than it is in the States. So you guys count your blessings, man. You got a lot of good stuff going there.
Well, I mean, this
Steve?
may be a problem all over the world. I don't know because I'm only exposed to what I'm exposed to. So I don't know like what happens in Canada very much. How much extra you pay. To me, it's just, it's just very confusing for somebody who's older and who's maybe sees the value of a dollar more than the person who still has the ability to make money. My income is finished. I don't make any more money. I got a retirement. That's the only money I have. I can't get a raise except what everybody else in the country gets. So when I say my income has stopped, it's stopped.
Steve,
Would
I
you
have
mind-
an offer.
Yeah.
In Chatham here in Canada, our club offers a auction sale once a year, and you would be amazed, and it's strictly for trains and anything related to trains, model trains. And we offer some fantastic deals, and if you know of one around your area, you'd be amazed at how much money you can save at an auction, because a lot of people are trying to unload their stuff that want to get out of the hobby, and that's where you get it, a really
Jim?
good deal.
Jim, do you mind if I share screen a second?
Go
Yeah.
ahead. Go ahead.
You guys see this? So you know I'm not BSing you. There are hundreds. Some of these are brand new, hundreds and hundreds of new locomotives for $50, $60. These are all DCC, every one of them. DCC. This one's pre-owned, $89. I mean, $70. I mean, DCC, pre-owned. Some of them are new, some of them are pre-owned, but you can, news, $94. I mean, just everything's under $100 here. I search for, it's there if you want it.
Tom, I look at that list every day. I go through eBay mainly for 0 and 30, but you have to also realize that to get the DCC units, that costs big bucks.
No, those are encoder equipped locomotives.
Not the locomotives, but to get in operation with the DC systems.
You don't have to get a Digitrax like mine will run a nuclear submarine. Everybody doesn't need one like that, They can do a basic, and they don't necessarily even have to have DCC. You could do analog. I'm just saying there's a way. I'm not trying to shoot you down in flames. I'm saying there's always a way.
Right.
So
I know
I
that-
think let's take a step back and talk about mentoring, because I think this is a place that we can mentor young
No
people. Because if you think about doing model railroading, there are some different components of building a layout of, you start by building models. If you buy kits, we all know that the kits cost, 70, 80% of the cost of a kit is the instructions. 60%, the materials are, 20 to 40% of the cost. So if you do, coming back to what Tom's been doing and scratch building, you cut a lot of that cost out. If you look at cars and those kinds of things, either you can build them yourself or you can buy them, in different ways. We have an auction out here in the Coast Division. We do it now 2 times a year. We had about 350 items at the last auction. I'll tell you my great disappointment. We had one member sell 8 locomotives, 8 HO locomotives, all with lock sound or soundtracks decoders in them, all priced between $30 and $40. And one of them sold. 7 didn't sell. So, the deals are there. I think the thing is to tell people, money shouldn't be a barrier to
Right.
participating in the hobby. You know, you look at DCC, you can buy a Sprog and run a Sprog for a, relatively small money. You can go with, Bluenami and not even have a control system or Locofi. I think that one of the things we need to do is talk about, maybe we need to talk about a bit about how do you become, more economical in the hobby? Because I think the opportunity is there. If you go buy things at list price and you buy, like Tom said, the top end models, they're going to be expensive, and they've gone up because of inflation here, but also because of the supply chain issues in China. It was interesting when I was, for those of you that are in HON3, soundtracks, what's the name of their HON3 models? Somebody knows. The HON Blackstone. So, I was at during the convention last year, I was the narrow gauge convention, was actually at Soundtracks, and the guy there has made a very interesting comment. He said, we sometimes had to send locomotives back to China 12 times to have them get it right to our standards. And now they're not willing to work with Soundtracks because, quite frankly, they probably found it wasn't economical. So I think, we need to expect the vendors to try to figure out what's the right options for us. So I think that this is something, though, that becomes interesting. It might be interesting, Jim, to think about, maybe we should have a economical model railroading, take something that says, how do you do this cost effectively? What are the, 10 areas, 5 areas you have to build your models in? And, you look at structures. What are you doing structures? You look at scenery. There's a lot of low cost ways of doing scenery. You look at engines, you look at cars, you look at a DCC system. I mean, each one of those, do you really need sound? I mean, you can buy a really nice HO decoder for $30 if you don't care about sound. In fact, if you send me an email, I'll send you 2 or 3 of them. So I think it's this idea of people have to think about this as being aspirational over time. So you start out, where most of us started out. You didn't go out and buy 40 locomotives for your layout. You built up to it. So I think there's a woe is me here that probably is not the right thought process. It's probably really, how do you do this, and how do you decide where to spend your money and your time?
Phil, I couldn't agree more. And I'll come back to the first comment you made when you started talking. I think it's an opportunity to mentor. You look at the talent that we have on this show, seriously, and you just look around. Look at the people that talk on this show. The amount of information that we can provide a new modeler coming in just on how to buy, how to get started, it is phenomenal. And I'll be honest with you, we're not doing it. And the reason we're not doing it is we're not being asked. And the reason we're not being asked is there's nothing set up that says, ask me a question, I'll give you an answer. Well, if anybody views this, if anybody knows young people that view this, one way that they can start asking for help that you can easily provide, each one of you can easily provide, is through our group that we just started. Just go on it and ask for help. That's all you got to do. It's the easiest thing in the world. Just give us a comment. What do you want to buy? We'll try to help you get it. Mm-hmm. And chances are somebody that I'm looking at right now on this screen has an answer. But they don't give it out because no one is asking it. Or if they are, they don't know they're asking it. It's a mismatch. It's why I started writing the articles and started this Zoom show originally, trying to connect the people that have questions with the people that have answers. And let both parties know that all you got to do is talk to each other, and both parties want to give the information and get the information, but there wasn't a channel to make it happen. That's why I do this. And here's a perfect example of how we can hopefully get young people involved in our hobby. It's not going to cost us anything, except we're just giving our knowledge to them about how to get started. It's called mentoring. Great conversation starter, Steve. Thank you so much. Next week, I'll look for you again.